On today's show, Marco drives his wife to outer space and chats with God in a coffee shop. Stay tuned to find out what this means. Welcome to the Dream Interpretation Podcast with your guest host, Holly Betros, in for Michael and Sandy today. I'm one of the lead instructors at the Ashling School, along with April Angel. April and I work with Michael and Sandy to teach you how to interpret your dreams and identify the healing work they show is necessary. Today's show is another half hour of us eavesdropping on the very personal communication between the spirit world and you, because that's what your dreams are. If you want to know what you're meant to be doing in life right now, look no further than your dreams. By analyzing your dreams, we reveal your potential and the obstacles you need to overcome. We're very specific. We tell you what your superpowers are, what would make you magnificent, and the bumps in life that are holding you back. But these bumps are not in the way, they are the way. To get your dream analyzed on the show, go to dream-analysis.com/podcasts, fill in the form, and send it to the show. Or simply email radioshow@dream-analysis.com. This week, April is presenting a free webinar on Thursday, February 15th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In this webinar, she'll show you how to identify your spiritual gifts in a fun way. It's 45 minutes long, it's interactive, so bring your questions for her to answer. So this week, in honor of Valentine's Day and in the spirit of love, I thought it would be fun to cover some romantic dreams. Positive or romantic relationship dreams can be a bit hard to find. And this is because, as you've probably heard us say on the radio show, you usually do not want to see your partner in a dream. Why would that be? Well, if dreams are generally pointing out blocks you need to heal, your partner being in the dream usually means there's negative influence in the relationship you need to explore. But sometimes we get lucky and we end up with a partner who's exceptionally loving, caring, and supportive, and creates a safe, nurturing space in which we can do deep inner work on ourselves. And those relationship dreams tend to be very nice. For today's show, I've chosen dreams from Marco, who is in one of these sorts of relationships. Even after years of marriage, he has some of the sweetest and most charming dreams with his wife I've ever seen. His dreams often show him taking her on picnics in the park where they eat delicious food together. The sun is always shining, and his wife is always smiling at him, blowing him kisses. Sometimes his dreams have them teaming up to defend the universe and fight dark forces together. In another recent one, Marco's wife was a beautiful princess in medieval times who sneaks out of a fancy banquet to secretly toss giant, juicy steaks down to Marco, who awaits her on a majestic white horse. I love love, and after more than 5 years of analyzing these sorts of dreams for Marco, I never tire of them. So, if you love love as much as I do, today is the show for you. We'll start with a dream that shows what it can look like when a couple's love is written in the stars. This one is titled Driving to Outer Space with My Love. I'll read it all the way through, and then we'll break it down together piece by piece. It was summertime, and I was outside washing a 1959 Cadillac DeVille sports car. In the dream, this was my car, beige with white leather interior, beautiful and super powerful. After washing and waxing it, the love of my life, my wife, came to me sensually eating an ice cream sandwich. Do you have room for a very special passenger? She asked, referring to herself. I enthusiastically replied, I do, becoming quite excited. Wink, wink. I tried to open the door for her, but my wife eagerly jumped over it into the car. I started the engine and, after driving for 2 blocks, asked her, Are you ready? She said yes, and our car started flying. We went up, 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 and left the atmosphere and entered outer space, which wasn't weird at all. It was intentional, and we wanted to go there. We passed entire galaxies like city blocks. I named each of the constellations and pointed them out to my love. The galactic air moved her hair so beautifully. She kept blowing me kisses and telling me she loved me. When we were ready, we turned the car around and admired Earth from thousands of miles away. It was so beautiful. And we returned. Okay, a very sweet and mushy dream for sure. Even the title's mushy, driving to outer space with my love. That tells us Marco's relationship is out of this world, we could say. So let's break it down. Marco says it was summertime. He's outside washing his 1959 Cadillac DeVille sports car, not his real life car. The car was beige with white leather interior, beautiful and super powerful. Immediately, we see Marco has a powerful hands on healing ability, which is represented by the powerful sports car and by it being summertime. Marco's dreams constantly show this gift, but it's not something he actively uses. But he should. Him specifying that he's outside washing the car indicates he's meant to use it professionally, or said another way, out in the open. Marco specified that the car was a 1959 Cadillac DeVille. Now, sometimes when you see a dream symbol from an earlier time period, this can be about having some kind of outdated influence you need to shed. But for Marco, this is his all-time favorite car because it's the top of the line model, powerful and beautiful. And this tells us he's not just a healer, he's an ultimate top of the line healer. So he really needs to start using this gift. Marco does use his healing gift with his wife, which we know because later in the dream he takes her for a drive in his sports car, but he needs to expand beyond this. The car's beige interior asks him to accept himself and his gift, like to really know himself as a healer, because beige is about acceptance. On to the next piece. So I finished washing and waxing the car. Then the love of my life, my wife, came to me sensually eating an ice cream sandwich. She asked, "Do you have room for a very special passenger?" referring to herself. I enthusiastically replied, "I do," becoming excited. I tried to open the door for her, but my wife excitedly jumped over it into the car. I started the engine and we drove for 2 blocks. I asked, "Are you ready?" She said yes, and the car started flying. Okay. The presence of Marco's wife makes this a relationship dream. And the playfulness in this section is typical of their relationship. They laugh a lot and really enjoy each other. Now, I'm going to keep this family friendly, but the wife is eating the ice cream sandwich in a sensual way, and it physically excites Marco. This is about how Marco and his wife complement each other. She's expressing interest in him through her playfulness with food. The food represents his healing gift and shows that his wife's affection for him is healing for Marco. The excitement it gives him helps him come into his full power. His masculinity switches on by her love, interest, and attention, which is important because healing is a gift that works through masculine energy. And the more excited you are, the more energy you can channel. To summarize here, her interest in him activates his masculine energy and helps ignite his healing gift. And that's how relationships are meant to work. Each partner shines their light on the other, so they both become the best and most powerful versions of themselves. Marco's wife asks him if he has room for a very special passenger. Now, being a passenger is a reference to incarnating because when we come to Earth, we come as a passenger in mom's body. Paired with the ice cream sandwich, which is cold, and starting the engine, which refers to the heart, we see an indication of a poor bond with mom. So Marco is meant to overcome being closed to people. We see another reference to a partially blocked heart with the car door being closed. But Marco's wife is special. She's able to overcome his closedness because she jumps over the door into the car. And we know Marco wants her to because he was going to open the door for her anyway. So she helps him open his heart, and he loves that she does. When Marco's wife asks if he has room for her, he enthusiastically replies, "I do." As we all know, I do is what you say when you're getting married. And this is about how Marco adores his marriage, as well as how him learning to open his heart fully is in service of the marriage. His wife gets in the car, he starts the engine, and they drive for 2 blocks. So the blocks are the blocks around his heart we were just talking about. But his wife's presence is helping him overcome this and get his heart going again because he starts the engine when she's in the car. And then the car starts flying. Marco says, We went up, 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 and left the atmosphere and entered outer space, which wasn't weird at all. It was intentional, and we wanted to go there. We passed entire galaxies like city blocks. I named each of the constellations and pointed them out to my love. The galactic air moved her hair so beautifully. She kept blowing me kisses and telling me she loved me. When we were ready, we turned the car around and admired Earth from thousands of miles away. It was so beautiful. And we returned. Okay. They left the atmosphere and entered outer space. So their relationship, I think I said it this way earlier, is clearly out of this world. It's beautiful and extraordinary. It takes them magical places. The dream is also about their spiritual goals because driving is about pursuing goals. They've transcended the physical world and it's practically effortless. So these two are definitely meant to work in the spiritual field together. Also, Marco is driving a car that takes them to outer space. So Marco's energy, which is tied to his healing gift, lifts them vibrationally to do this work. If you're wondering, the car flying also represents him having the gifts of projection, absent healing, and hypnosis. They're driving through galaxies together, and Marco says this isn't weird at all. In other words, this is what a normal day in their relationship is like. They fly around constellations together. Maybe not literally, but their life together is magical and blissful. And if you were to see them together, it would be hard not to notice this. We could even say it like their connection was written in the stars. And really it was. This was all part of their pre-birth plan, which we know because Marco says it was intentional. We wanted to go there. Marco names each of the constellations and points them out to his love. This is a dream device that's intended to be romantic. It's saying that exploring life and the universe with his wife is a fantastical journey. It emphasizes how much his relationship excites him. And we see that his wife loves and enjoys him just as much because she's blowing him kisses and telling him she loves him. Their mutual love takes them places. It also shows us Marco's a guide because he's basically giving her a guided tour of the galaxy. Since today's show is about romance, let's look at one more super romantic piece here where Marco comments that the galactic air moves his wife's hair so beautifully. You can imagine if his wife were to shake her head and sort of like swoosh her hair in outer space, her hair might lag a moment behind, maybe like a slow motion hair commercial. There's a sort of poetry about her movements, just like there's a poetry about the relationship that this dream captures so beautifully. You can see that too with them sitting in this fancy car in outer space, admiring Earth from thousands of miles away. This is him getting a higher perspective on his life and relationship and reminding him to enjoy his time on Earth. It also reminds him that although he and his wife are in a physical lifetime, they can traffic to the spiritual effortlessly, like a drive around the block whenever they like. So that's our first dream. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. That one is pretty hard to top on a romance scale, but what if you were to dream of God telling you to love your partner without limitations? That could be pretty romantic too. So let's take a look. This next dream is called Coffee Shop Conversation with God. I was with my wife in a huge fancy library cafe somewhere like Switzerland. Books everywhere. The walls had huge, beautiful windows through which we watched the snow. We sat together on a massive leather couch. Classical music played quietly. There weren't many customers. At our little table, we had blueberry scones and 5 or 6 coffees just for the two of us. My wife looked beautiful in a purple tank top and skirt and pink and purple sneakers. Her hair was voluminous and her legs were beautiful and shiny as if they had been oiled. She looked so happy. She went to the coffee bar to buy us bread, juice, and an omelet. We had so much food. As I watched my wife, who was dancing and blowing me kisses, trying to make me laugh, I see a guy with white hair and a short beard. He wore gray dress pants, black dress shoes, and a flowered white dress shirt. I knew immediately he was God, the Father, the Almighty. God said with authority, "Take a good look at your wife. Trust me." Everything is fine. Love her without limitations, and don't worry, you have time. You will love her more if you're free. He winked at me and walked away. I felt a little embarrassed because I'm always nervous about my time with my wife being limited, but I trusted him and appreciated his assurance that I have time. All right, let's break it down. So Marco said he's with his wife in a huge fancy library cafe somewhere like Switzerland. There's books everywhere. The walls have huge, beautiful windows through which they're watching the snow, and they sit together on a massive leather couch. So we're starting off in a very cozy scene. We like the cafe. That's a positive heart reference because cafe is somewhere you sit and chat and share your heart with somebody dear to you. But we also see walls and snow, which are negative heart references. Walls indicate a barrier around the heart, snow has coldness. So this is telling us Marco didn't feel unconditional love from mom at the start of life. So although Marco is enjoying this cozy romantic cafe with his wife, the outer world feels like a cold place, and he guards his heart. The library and books show us Marco has a counseling gift. The couch reinforces this, as it can be a reference to a therapist's office or a counselor's office. And Marco also has a large intuitive gift, shown by the huge windows, though he'll need to heal his blocks around his heart to fully use this gift, as intuition is one that works through feminine energy. Continuing on, he says classical music played quietly. There weren't many customers. At our little table, we had blueberry scones and 5 or 6 coffees just for the two of us. My wife looked beautiful in a purple tank top and skirt and pink and purple sneakers. Her hair was voluminous. Her legs were beautiful and shiny as if they had been oiled. She looked so happy. We went to the coffee bar to buy us bread, juice, and an omelet. We had so much food. Okay. This little section shows just how happy Marco is in his relationship and how his wife helps heal his heart. There's soft, gentle music playing. They have the place almost entirely to themselves. His wife is happy to be with him and is buying him treats. Like we saw in the first stream, the food represents his healing gift. Her buying it shows she's helping heal his feminine side. And we already know it needs healing because there was the snow and also because his wife has pink in her sneakers, which again reveals a lack of unconditional love from mom at the start of life. The 5 or 6 coffees for just the two of them says that his ability to heal and open his heart will move him from the karmic path, represented by 5, to the dharmic path, represented by 6. The coffees sit on the table. So that's the dream's way of saying he's accountable for doing this work. Coffee is something he enjoys and is a stimulant. So it's trying to give him a boost and show him he's going to enjoy opening his heart, even if it's uncomfortable at first. Marco grew up in a Latin American country where food was limited, and dreams with his wife, like this one, often show them eating large amounts of his favorite foods together, things like meats, juices, coffees, and breads. It's like when he's with his wife, his heart feels full and his body feels nourished. It reminds me of that saying, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But basically, she helps nourish him both because of how she cares for him and how her love helps him open his heart. Something else useful to notice in this dream, there's all this emphasis on the foods he's selecting. And often when you see coffee in dreams, it's an indication you're not meant to drink coffee, or foods are sometimes show up to tell you things that you're not meant to eat. But that's not the case here. All the foods are shown in a positive way. So it's more with the healing and enjoyment connotation that I described. Now, we definitely have to talk about the way Marco describes his wife physically. He says her hair is voluminous and her legs were beautiful and shiny, like they'd been oiled, which is really calling attention to them and making them appealing. And to Marco, his wife is perfection. She always shows up this sort of way in his dreams, but symbolically, since hair is thoughts because it comes from our head, and legs and sneakers are about moving forward, the physical qualities he's noticing about her are inviting him to expand his thoughts, voluminous hair, about moving forward in his feminine energy. He comments on how happy she looks, which tells us both that opening his heart more will bring him happiness. And from a more romantic side, he loves his wife so much that it truly makes him happy to see her happy. The last piece in this section is his wife's purple clothing, which tells us Marco's a spiritual leader. But if you've watched the show for a while, you know spiritual leadership is a feminine energy gift. So it requires him to open his heart to use it fully. In the next section, Marco says, as I watched my wife, who was dancing and blowing me kisses, trying to make me laugh, I see a guy with white hair and a short beard. He wore gray dress pants, black dress shoes, and a white flowered dress shirt. I knew immediately he was God, the Father, the Almighty. His wife is dancing and blowing him kisses. So, first, she's raising his vibration by making him feel good and being silly. Dancing is about expressing the heart. So, she's continuing to encourage him to open his heart. And she makes it safe for him to do so because of how much she loves him. And she's showing that in the dream. We saw earlier with the snow that this is hard for him, and we see it here with the reference to gray dress pants, which means he mentally denies his emotion. The black dress shoes say this makes it hard for him to move forward with his feminine side, at least outside of his relationship. There's some kind of fear or negativity around it. The God character in the dream has white hair and a beard and a white shirt. White can be about purity and perfection, or the flip side of it, which can show up as being critical. And I asked Marco, this is kind of a big question, but I asked him if he ever felt critical of God. And although he doesn't quite think of it in that language, like he doesn't think the sentence to himself, I'm critical of God, he explained that when he was a child, his mom had a terrible 6-year battle with cancer before passing away. And he would pray for her all the time and felt let down by God that his prayers didn't save her. This loss was crushing for him, and he's guarded his heart ever since. So that explains some of the symbols for a poor bond with mom that we saw earlier in the dream. His mom loved him, but she wasn't fully available to him in her condition. When Marco met his wife, that was the first time he ever loved someone so much again. And this love has been very healing for him. But at the same time, as you might imagine, loving her this much feels terrifying because what if he were to ever lose her like he lost his mother? Now, in the last piece, God tells him with authority, take a good look at your wife. Trust me, everything's fine. Love her without limitations and don't worry. You have time. You'll love her more if you're free. And then he winks at Marco and walks away. Here, the God character is trying to heal Marco of his fear of loss. He's reminding him that he can't both guard his heart and have it fully open at the same time. So he can experience more love if he can release the fear. And this won't be an easy task. Marco will need to do some kind of therapy, like cutting the ties that bind, to help him fully release this. But God's trying to give him a head start by assuring him that these worries are unnecessary. This also tells him that he has time to do the healing work because that's part of what he came here to do, and his marriage is going to help him do that. As I said at the start of the show, I chose Marco's dreams because they're wonderfully sweet and romantic, and it's Valentine's week. But if your partner's dreams of you don't look quite like this, don't panic. That's completely okay and actually very normal. It doesn't mean they don't love you. Something I find very interesting about dreams is how much they reflect the personality of the dreamer. For example, if somebody's really cerebral and spends lots of time thinking or worrying about things, they often have dreams in which they're thinking and worrying about mundane things, and they don't tend to be the liveliest dreams. One of my sisters has a very curious and kind of fun and quirky personality, and that quirkiness shows up in her dreams, which tend to be surprisingly funny and clever and usually make me laugh. Marco is naturally a very romantic person. Just to give you some background, he was in love with his wife for at least a year before he had ever even talked to her. On his first date, he told her he wanted to marry her. He just knew she was the one. Years later, he still lavishes her with love, attention, flowery text messages, and affirmations. And if it were physically possible, I'm sure he wouldn't think twice about flying her to the galaxies to admire Earth from a distance. In other words, the way he's being in the dream is exactly how he is in real life, with all physical limitations removed. Today's dreams are overwhelmingly positive and affirming of Marco's relationship, though, as dreams always do, they show the next area of focus for healing and growth. For Marco, this is healing wounds around a poor bond with mom and the deep wound of losing her. We saw that Marco brought a huge array of gifts with him: healing, intuition, spiritual leadership, and counseling. And a wide array of gifts like that is common for a guide. The dreams show he's meant to step into these gifts completely, which will happen naturally as his healing progresses. The more he can follow the advice of the second dream, of letting go of his worry and fear, the more he'll be free to enjoy his wonderfully loving relationship with his wife. And if his dreams are this cushy now, imagine what they'll be like in the future. Dreams evolve as you evolve. If you're curious to know what your dreams are saying about your relationship or any area of your life, come check out one of our programs. Like I said earlier, April's presenting a free webinar this Thursday, February 15th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And she's going to show you how to identify your spiritual gifts in a really fun way. It's 45 minutes, it's interactive, so bring your questions and she'll be happy to answer them. Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching today and happy Valentine's week. Bye.